Sure, my name's Noah Kunin, and I'm the multimedia content producer for the Sunlight Foundation in Washington, D.C.
We're asking everybody today, what's next?
Well, what's next for us is the Sunlight Foundation focuses on government transparency and working on making government accountable, that unless you know what your government's doing, whether it's the federal Congress, your state legislature, or City Hall, unless you know what they're doing, you really can't hold them accountable to be effective. What's next for us is Sunlight's been extremely successful over the past few years of making government data available, whether it's the budget, whether it's information about bills, whether it's information in federal agencies. All that data is slowly becoming more accessible. What we've had more difficulty understanding is how to hold government accountable. The reason that is when you actually look at that data, there's a lot of data on how much we spend on Medicare, or how much data is on, how many acres of parkland are being overseen, or how many leases for offshore oil drilling there are. What there's a very actually disturbing lack of is accountability data. Data that actually would impact an analysis of, is an organization, is any organ of government actually doing their job? One of the only organizations we've found that actually has real accountability data is the National Transportation Safety Bureau, NTSB. Many other, actually the majority of other agencies in any part of government don't have accountability data. It's really difficult to understand if they're doing their job and if they're doing their job correctly. You have to wait perhaps years for a report that may be only covering a very narrow portion of their mission statement. So what we're looking to do through the rest of this campaign and especially into this next governance year is getting a handle on what accountability data is out there, and where it's missing, lobbying hard for it. It's really important that we understand whether or not government's doing a job. We can have the best policy in the world. Whether or not you support the recent healthcare reform, whether or not you support the recent financial regulation reform, it's important that when government decides to do something, they understand if it's working. And right now it doesn't appear to be a lot of data to understand whether or not that's happening.
What's the biggest roadblock to getting that?
The biggest, I'm trying to think of a diplomatic way to say it. Basically power fiefdoms. That's really what it comes down to is, every year if you get a new administration or a new party takes control of Congress, you have a whole boatload of political appointees who are in and out, right, who try to make change but come up against career officials. What we saw actually recently with Barack Obama taking over at the White House is a raft of young, really reform-minded, often young individuals coming into government agencies, everywhere from, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Energy, all the way down the list, trying to make their organizations more open, more transparent, more accountable, and running into roadblocks of career officials who were just saying to them, look, you young punk, you have no idea how things work here, right? And you have no idea what it would take to make all this information transparent. And, now a lot of those great advocates that have been great advocates for transparency since Obama took office are now leaving to go back to campaigns, or leaving to go back to the private sector. And those same career individuals are left. And so making sure that they understand that this process isn't an attempt to find a way to fire them, but is a way to help them make their jobs more effective. In a world where often our sort of agency, even still as the most powerful country on earth, has reduced by world events, whether it's the economy or the environment, it's really important that we plug into the amazing creative potential of everyday people. And the only way we can get everyday people involved in what's government's doing, whether it's preserving our environment or filling down the pothole down the street, is making government data available so they know where the problems are and what they can do to help fix them in their spare time. It's what the UpTake has done on the section of journalism, right? That journalism can't be sustained by a small number of massive corporations, that everyone needs to get involved at whatever level they're capable of doing, given their skill set and their time availability, to make sure that we have a journalism that's transparent and accountable, just like we have a government that's transparent and accountable. And so looking at ways where we can get everyone involved at every level of government in making it effective is the core of our mission through the rest of this campaign, but also going into next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.